myself Kunal Guma welcome you all to Global Business Line. Today we have with us Dr. Amitabha Bandyopadhyay, faculty in charge Bioincubator Facility. He is also the director of FIRST, Foundation of Innovation and Research in Science and Technology, a secretariat company promoted by IIT Kanpur. He is also Kent Chair Professor, Innovation and Entrepreneurship. A very warm welcome to Global Business Line, sir. I wish
Thank
you
you.
and all the viewers a happy Republic Day.
Thank you. Thank you.
First of all, sir, let me congratulate for being the member of National Startup Advisory Council.
Thank you very much, Kunal. Yeah, it means a lot.
Sir, my first question directly comes for you. Why Biotech Lab Bootcamp?
Well, uh, after the tremendous success of IT industry in the country, there was massive hope that biotechnology industry will follow suit and it will be the next economic engine for the country. But unfortunately, while for IT industry, you primarily require, of course, good training and nothing more than a laptop or a desktop. But if you want to excel in biochemistry, biotechnology, not only you will need good theoretical knowledge, but you also need extensive access to very good academic like infrastructure, which is lacking in many of the colleges. Therefore, if we want to promote innovation in all strata of Indian academic system, then we have to somehow ensure that our students are well trained, particularly they have an idea what different kinds of equipment infrastructure exists and how they can aid in different kinds of experimentation and innovation. So with that in mind, we opened up. So we have a very sophisticated biology laboratory as part of the incubator per se. Like it is not an IIT Kanpur academic unit. It is an exclusive unit for the incubator. So we have taken up this mission of training 20-30 students in batches for couple of weeks, a month, so that we have a batch of students. They're coming from colleges outside of the IIT ecosystem, and they will know what they can do with their ideas if they are given a very good infrastructure. So that is the primary purpose.
So, is there any candidate from MSc, MTech, or PhD pursuing candidates can also join opt for the Biotech Bootcamp?
Yes, I would want to believe that MTechs and PhDs will not need it because they will be in places where they already will have access to very good infrastructure. But yes, BSc and MSc students, many of the colleges in Kanpur or UP may not have sophisticated laboratory infrastructure. It is expensive. Government of India spent more than 10 crore rupees to set up this facility. So that kind of facility you may not expect to be there in many of the local colleges. So it is primarily for them, but of course it is like anyone is welcome. But mostly we have seen so far BSc and MSc students, yes.
Okay, how do you see the innovation ideas on the youth in this era?
Well, I will say something that might come to you as a little bit of a surprise. The ideas are simply outstanding. But as far as IIT Kanpur and our incubator is concerned, I feel that the ideas are not hegemony of the so-called institutes of national importance. Rather, ideas are coming from people who are more, who are in the outside of this ecosystem. And I have my own theory. Of course, theories are meant to be proven wrong. My theory is that the academically good students, well accomplished students, the Indian ecosystem is such that that they have been pretty much chained to their study table all their life. So they know little less about the world around them. And within the campuses of the IITs or NITs or top-notch universities, they are so self-contained that the students do not have much need to venture out or face the day-to-day realities of life. On the other hand, if you think about the local colleges, government universities and colleges, their students come from all strata, not only economic strata, social strata as well. They have faced realities of life firsthand. So they know where the problems are, and they are highlighting those problems and coming up with fantastic solutions. You would not normally think about what happens to the flower that you offer in the temple. But someone else did, because he had first-hand experience and created an outstanding company like Pool, where they make products out of these flowers. You would not normally think about what happens to the feathers that are thrown away in a poultry farm. But someone else faced the real problem and came up with an outstanding idea to make completely compostable plastic out of these feathers. And these are not coming from the IIT students per se. These are coming from outside of the campus. And I'm really happy, pleasantly surprised, and I have very high hope and opinion about today's youth and their ability to imagine and identify right problems.
How you as an incubator expect, okay, means what you as an incubator expect from the innovators?
Well, to be honest, I expect them to come up with problem statements which are worthy of solving. What is a problem that sometimes I see in the incubation space? Like I am associated with the Kerala Startup Mission. I am an outside advisor to the Kerala Agricultural University. Of course, I am aware of the IIT Kanpur ecosystem. I am part of several evaluation committees of BIDAC and DST and etc. What I see a problem often is encountered is that innovators manufacture a problem that they think is a problem, and then they come up with very elaborate and sophisticated schemes to solve it without ever thinking who will be the customer. See, as a consumer, you will know that you do not spend even 5 rupees out of your pocket for a product that you don't need. Therefore, what I need, or the incubator needs, or the ecosystem needs, is identification of problems that are worthy of solving. And in my opinion, that is 70% of the game. Once you have identified a good problem, then there is no dearth of technological excellence or infrastructure presence to solve the problem. And in my opinion, so far I have not come across any idea which is a problem worthy of solving, but due to technological or other challenges, we could not attempt it. That so far has not happened. So yeah, my singular ask is, please identify the problem that is worth solving.
Today, in pandemic, we can see that with the limited resources, our researchers has really done wonders at a very low cost. Do you think that this is the right time for the government to do more to encourage the biotech?
Well, I would not even limit it to biotech per se. I would talk about the entire healthcare ecosystem as well as little bit beyond it. It is, if you take this question of yours as continuation of the previous question, what do you want out of the incubators or the innovators? As you rightly pointed out, Kunal, that in the pandemic period, our startup ecosystem and the R&D ecosystem, they really stood up and delivered for the nation. This is my favorite slogan now, and I am repeating it to you because you have a different audience set. You open the newspapers of March, April 2020, and you will see a clear despair in all the headlines that we do not have adequate healthcare ecosystem, we do not have ventilators, we do not have PPE kits, we do not have masks, we do not have diagnostic kits. We had nothing.
Yes.
And then you open the newspapers in June, July 2020. Suddenly, you will see that India is the second largest producer of PPE kits. India is making so many ventilators that government cannot even take it up, and they have opened it up for exports.
Yes.
While developed nations were had to put their citizens on a long wait list to get their diagnostics done, in India, diagnostics were developed in-house, and we had the capacity to carry out 50 lakh diagnoses a day, while UK had to wait for 2 to 3 weeks for diagnosis to be done, and that too they were dependent on Italy at one point of time. So you see what happened, what changed, how did it deliver? It is directly related to what I was talking about earlier. In my opinion, it is my thesis that unlike before pandemic, when innovators were mostly unaware of what problems should be solved, they were manufacturing problems to solve. During the pandemic, nobody had to spell out. It was right there on the newspaper headlines that what are the problems that are out there. And once the problems are identified, our kids are smart enough. We have the R&D ecosystem unparalleled in the world, and they delivered. You just see, like, you cannot point out even one domain where India was not Atmanirbhar. We did not get anything from any country because every country was under stress. We developed everything indigenously. So, and I should say emphatically that government helped enormously in this process. Okay, because we were involved in several projects. So, money upfront, without even proper proof of principle, government spent money, because of which developments were, accelerated. There was a time, uh, I do not know if we will be talking about our ventilator project at some point, but I'll just give you a hint that in September 2020, on my mailbox, suddenly one mail hit. It was from the Indian Embassy in Singapore, Indian High Commission in Singapore. And the mail talked about some fees that we are supposed to pay to the Singapore, a freight forwarder in Singapore. So what happened is that when our incubator was intimately working with one of the incubated companies to develop a ventilator, um, we desperately needed some things to be shipped out of Singapore almost on an overnight notice. And this was the same time when Singapore was undergoing lockdown. Mm-hmm. High Commission, like our Ministry of Electronics and Telecommunication, External Affairs Ministry, and Commerce Ministry, they all collaborated and conveyed the message to Indian High Commission in Singapore that please facilitate this transportation. And they stood guarantee on behalf of us because we could not send them the guarantee money or the advance money in that short of a notice. And they stood guarantee, and the shipment came to us literally overnight. So this is what government has done, and this is what the government is capable of. I simply hope that they maintain this momentum, and then you will see India will go places. There is just no two way about it.
There's one cross question over here on the same context. how you will how you can see the pandemic situation if the same pandemic has been hit us before 6 years or 7 years.
Well, the outcome may not have been the same. Like again, you have to give credit, a lot of credit to the government, that for last 12 to 15 years, the government has nurtured the startup ecosystem very, very carefully. They have poured in money, they have created mentor network, infrastructure, everything. Because that network and that ecosystem was already in place, so when we faced the challenges, we had all the wherewithals, all the pieces of the puzzle were already there. Just we needed some brave young people to take up the challenges and deliver. So 6 7 years back, our readiness level would not have been the same, is my guess.
As a if we see the data, okay, every on an international level, it has
Mhm.
been said that Indian startups are maximum, the big startups are a copy of some other countries' startups. Okay.
Yeah,
Like if you see Ola is the copy of Uber,
yeah,
Airbnb, Oyo, and many like that.
yeah.
So what is there means why is the lack of real innovations in India, and how you see this as a bigger challenge in coming days, or do you see that the challenge is now very less because we have a real innovations in India?
Well, you have asked a very difficult question, politically sensitive, but I will give you an answer, and I will hide behind professor's thesis and hypothesis. Your diagnosis is absolutely spot on, that many of the big ticket companies, they are really knockoff of the international peers. First of all, there is a place for that as well. World is a very big market, and it doesn't hurt. But you know in some discussion the other day, someone pointed, I claimed that Pune is coming up as a very nice tech hub, and someone said that by tech we understand IT, and Pune does not really have that. That's where the problem is, that tech is not IT. IT is a subset of tech. Information technology is one kind of technology. In India, for some reason, and of course I have some idea about the reasons, uh, startup, innovation, technology, deep tech, all of these are synonymous only with IT and IT enabled services. While I have absolutely no problem with that, but when you think of the pandemic, the solutions that actually saved the nation and now perhaps the world is not just the ITITS. A major part was products that are hardware products, biotech products. And until and unless we focus our attention towards that segment, we will not be able to become Atmanirbhar. We will not become a knowledge economy. Just on the back of service sector, we will not get where we want to get. Just look at the trouble that UK faced. UK is a country that consciously moved towards service industry, and you see what happened. So, and there, Kunal, if you look at it very carefully, just within our own ecosystem, that this people that are making products out of flower waste, people that are making products out of poultry waste, or the Swasa mask that has been developed, even the ventilator that was developed, that was not based on any existing model. It was a completely de novo model. So what is now needed is that innovation in the hardware ecosystem as well. There has to be software and service sector innovation as well. like one of my favorite things to talk about will be a fantastic electronic health record platform, because that will not only affect India's healthcare system, but international healthcare system. With a population of 130 crore, if the data about patient, geographical location, age, gender, and medical history is logged properly, that will be a gold mine for all sorts of analytics to get to the predictive medicine, predictive healthcare domain. So yes, we need to have innovation. Like I would steal a quotation from Professor R.A. Mashelkar, one of the most famous champions of our ecosystem. He says that for India, the eye should not be imitation, it should be innovation. And I completely agree that we need to come up with our own innovative products, both in hardware and in software. Then only we will be, we will get where we want to get.
Everybody today talks about achievements. Okay.
Yeah.
But I want to ask you one of your life's, failure, which can give a lesson to our viewers.
Like like failure of my own career.
Yes, yes, of your own career, or what
Yeah.
has been something, some challenges.
Yeah, so I will tell you, I will be very candid with you. This, so when I was in class 12, my father was very seriously ill. So the 4 months preceding the 12th exam, which in India is considered to be the toughest exam of your career, I did not have either of my parents at home. Okay. And my result performance suffered, because those were the 4 crucial months where I had to face a lot of hardship. And that kind of continued even into the college days. And after the first 2 years, I performed terribly, terribly. Like as a professor now, if a student performs like that, they would be pretty much out of my course. Okay. And I was dead, and I suffered academically badly, and that kind of hurt my self-esteem, that I used to be the blue-eyed boy of my small town government school, and from there I had this fall from grace. So in the third year, I fought back. I stood around, and then I ranked within the top 10 in the university. And from there, I never looked back. Uh, that is one. Another one, very academic, but people should know, like my own students know. When I was doing my PhD, I had a fantastic mentor, and I was very ambitious about the research question I wanted to ask. It was very much ahead of our time. I proposed something which my mentor said that, I think it will not work. You should not do it. I said, but I want to really do this one. He said, go ahead and do it. If it doesn't work, don't, come back and hit your head against the wall. I said, fine, I will do it. And I went for it. And I worked really hard for 4 years. And the project did not work. Okay, so 4 years of my PhD career was just down the drain, almost. Now I know that it was not down the drain, but at that time, I had nothing to show for. Then suddenly, I was, today I am technologically quite backward, but in those days I was technologically quite ahead of my peers. Bioinformatics was, like the information about sequences, DNA sequences were just coming up on the web, and I kept my eyes on those, and I had a new idea of trying, like my lab was a biochemistry lab, and I proposed a genetics lab, a genetics experiment, and that too with an organism that my lab was not familiar with. This time my mentor said, this is a very good idea, you should do this. And yes, I do not have the expertise. Here is a collaborator. Let him be your co-PI, like a co-thesis advisor, and you go ahead. And the rest is history. Like in the next 2 years, I published some 7 papers, and that were very celebrated. And then, I had a fantastic postdoctoral career. I got into Harvard, and I had one of the best mentors in the world that one can ask for. And then from there on, I never had to, struggle. But that project that failed, it actually taught me so much that I am now never afraid to take up a project which seems difficult. Because I know that even if you attempt something difficult, it may fail, but you will have a whole lot of learning which will pay dividend anyway.
Professor, I have few questions from Mr. Rahul Gupta. He is the editor of science from Global Business Line. So I just play his audio.
Sure.
Hello, Dr. Bandyopadhyay. My question is, all around the world, CRISPR technology is gaining rapid attention and has undergone in clinical trials to cure several blood disorders such as sickle cell anemia, hemophilia, etc. But in India, still there is no sign of such clinical trials. So my question is, why Indian science community seems to fail to utilize such genome editing tools to try to cure such diseases?
Rahul, I would say that I do not completely agree with you. You are partly correct that the research on CRISPR-Cas and exploiting that system for human health is really much more advanced in the developed nations as opposed to that in India. But in India also, CRISPR-Cas research is happening. You may have heard of this diagnostic kit called Feluda, which was developed at IGIB Delhi. That is a CRISPR-Cas based diagnostic kit. And I know that Dr. Debjyoti and his team are doing more innovative things with CRISPR-Cas technology. Many of us use CRISPR-Cas as a routine laboratory tool, but yes, for disease research, we are lagging. The fundamental reason for that is that you will be stunned to know that for most of the disease-related research, an essential component is to do prior experiments with mouse genetics. And for mouse genetics, you require a rather sophisticated facility, a transgenic mouse facility. In the whole country, there is only one place where such experiments can be done, which is in INSTEM NCBS Bangalore. And that too, one, it's a small facility, and two, they're not into doing the classical mouse gel, like the knock-in, knockout technology. They are primarily doing CRISPR-Cas related work only. What we need is a much more bigger infrastructure for doing animal research, animal genetics. Without that, we will not be able to jump to the human disease research with genetics, with CRISPR-Cas. That is one part of the problem. And the second part is that, the size of scientific community in India is very small. So there are a few labs here and there that are doing that kind of work, but just because of the rather small volume, the impact is not being visible. I am now confident that with the establishment of ICERs, who have really become centers of excellence, many of the new IITs, some of the fantastic central universities, in another 5-10 years, you will perhaps see a complete turnaround in that sector as well.
Uh, Sir, you have taken few outstanding initiatives from your side. Okay, so will you please tell me something about TED Talk?
Yeah. So see, like as I said earlier, that in my opinion, good problem statements, identification of good problem statements is more than 70% of the innovation journey. And like us professors, we are so far away from the industry, mostly insulated. Students, the same way. Uh, so how do we identify good problem statements? So therefore, Tech Talk is a step in that direction. What we do here is that we invite practicing doctors, practicing engineers, leaders of global industry, um, progressive farmers, all of them to IIT Kanpur, and they first narrate what they do, how they do it, and then we request them to list down 4 or 5 outstanding problem statements that needs immediate attention. And these talks are attended heavily by students and faculty of IIT Kanpur, faculty members of IIT Kanpur, and some entrepreneurship journey starts with the problem statements that they derive from the tech talks. This is sponsored by Capri Global, one of our CSR partners, and they have also offered a 2 lakh rupee incentive for any good solution to any of the problem statements outlined during the tech talk. And then once the solution comes through, then they of course, with 2 lakh rupees you can only do a very rough prototype. Depending on how good the rough prototype is, we take them under our wings and allow them to flourish and get into a product ready for the market. So that is the overall vision.
Yes. Let me take the second question from Mr. Rahul.
My second question is why there is no comprehensive gene editing policy in India. So, what should be our stance in this?
Well, Rahul, I would acknowledge that I am not very knowledgeable about gene editing policy, the policy framework, but I do know that gene editing in newborns or like in embryonic stage gene editing is kind of not allowed throughout the world. Only in China there is one example of CRISPR babies, but before and after that there is no other example. And also, in the clinical trial stage, there are policies that have been developed in our other countries. I would not know it firsthand, but I want to believe that policies are being under development. But I really am not knowledgeable about this part.
So you have started Tech for Tribal.
Mm-hmm.
So what that comes to means how it is started, and tell our viewers about that.
Well, this is a two-pronged strategy. Okay, uh, you know this, that the tribal population of India, they have a wealth of ancient knowledge, and you know that that is very, very powerful. But unfortunately, in today's day and age, where glitz and glamour rules the day, their ancient knowledge is not really being rewarded financially, and they have a very difficult life. And on the other hand, as I have been telling you all along, that I am a big champion of you know finding out good problem statements which can be readily solved and which will have entrepreneurial potential. So both these problems are attacked directly with this Tech for Tribal initiative. It is an initiative from TriFed, which is under the Tribal Affairs Ministry, supported financially by MSME. And our execution home right now is Chhattisgarh Minor Forest Produce Federation, CGMFP Fed. That is also another government undertaking. And SIIC is the implementation partner. What we are doing there is we are working with the tribals in Chhattisgarh. They have these self-help groups where different kinds of forest produce are harvested, processed, and then sold. And in each of these steps, there are inefficiencies because the technology has not developed much for last 100, 200 years. Whether it is harvesting, whether it is like sorting the harvest, then processing them, and then the packaging, the marketing, every aspect. I'll give you a simple example. I do not know the veracity of the claim, but there were newspaper reports a couple of weeks back that apparently, I want to have the disclaimer because I am not an authority on this, but I'm only quoting the newspaper reports, that apparently all the major honey sellers in the country, they sell honey that is adulterated with sugar syrup. And our farmers, our tribals, they harvest honey at the purest of the form. This is jungle honey, forest honey. And we know that it is not adulterated, right? So how do we ensure that people preferentially buy honey from the tribals? Now, you, Kunal Guha, or me, Amitabha Bandyopadhyay, if I go to a store and I see a popular brand honey and another honey that says, Chhattisgarh tribal product, and the Chhattisgarh tribal product might be 3x the price of the popular honey brand, and I am still willing to pay for it. You are still willing to pay for it just because you know that it is pure and the proceeds will go to the tribals of the Chhattisgarh. Now there are 3-4 challenges. Number one, how do you ensure the supply chain that it will go to all over the places? How will you ensure that Kunal Guha will actually be attracted to that particular package? And where should the pricing be pegged at? Because you need that confirmation that it is really coming from the forest of Chhattisgarh. So all of these are technological problems, are problems that will have technological solutions. Now, when you try to roll out those technological solutions, new innovations will come along the way. And the end product is that tribals of Chhattisgarh and India will be benefited. So that is the overall concept of taking up this Tech for Tribal initiative. And I really like, if you ask me to pick one incubator project that must succeed, then that will be this one.
That's really interesting. That's really interesting. Let me take up the third question from Master Rahul.
My third question is why there is no world-class science index journal from India? Why we need to run behind American journals to publish our valuable research? What do you think? How we can overcome such problem to improve our Indian science community in the field of research and publication?
Well, again, it is a little sensitive question, but I will answer it as much politically correct manner as I can. See, there are the primary objective of publishing your research is that so that the world gets to know. And the preamble of doing good science is that your research should be replicable. Like any other place around the world, they should be able to run exactly the same experiment that you have done, and they should obtain exactly the same result. And once they do that, then only the further research can be built on top of the result published by your lab. Okay, so that is the premise of scientific publication. However, there is a secondary objective. The secondary criteria is that if you are publishing and publishing well, then that becomes your currency for career advancement. It is rather unfortunate that the secondary objective has now become primary. That is, how many papers in which journals dictate whether or not one scientist will advance in their career trajectory. And that insecurity has been exploited to the hilt by the big publishing houses. They have created this matrix called impact factor. Unfortunately, some of the scientists, leading scientists in the world, were also champions of this system at one point of time, which they thought will be an objective criteria for judging science. And this has now gone completely wild, and it has taken its own life, and it is exploitative in multiple ways. Now it is a very complex web of where you publish. Based on that, you get your impact factor, and right now it is so simple for the people who are in the position to judge your scientific credibility, where your genius is impact factor multiplied by number of the publications. Isn't that so simple? So this rush for simplicity actually killed the nuances of doing good science. So it is complex, and that's where the problem lies with why there aren't any good Indian science journal. Because tomorrow, imagine that a global business line starts a science journal and ensures that it will have the highest quality vis-a-vis very good peer review, honest publication, the reviews will be published, the article will be published, transparent, acceptable to the whole world, accessible to the whole world. But it will not give me the impact factor currency. It might take 5-6 years, like for the impact factor to catch up. And who will risk publishing in that journal? Because that 4-5 years, if I publish only in that journal, then my people who are in a position to judge my scientific career will say this Amitabh is quite useless. So that's where the problem lies. So while the dissemination of scientific knowledge is a critically important criteria, and scientists have always enjoyed their freedom to what to publish, when to publish. All of that is correct. But until and unless there is a government mandate that if you have taken money from Government of India to do your research, you have to publish in one of these 10 Indian journals or 30 Indian journals. Until that is mandated, and then the interview boards will not have the excuse to look at the impact factor in some other way. They will say that, okay, it is a government mandate, everybody is publishing only in these journals, now let us judge it on the basis of quality. So until and unless that happens, this will never be solved.
Yeah. Very true, very true, very true. Because we have already gone through this, and we are also in a plan, but we are also facing the same problem. Okay, so let's talk about the REC Innovation Platform. What is that actually?
Same objective: Tech for Tribal, Tech Talks, REC Innovation, all are aimed at only one objective, that is to fish out good problem statements, and high quality innovators from places which are generally not on the radar of rest of the innovation incubation setup. That is, would you, like, when you are thinking of good entrepreneurs, tech entrepreneurs, will you naturally think of Bareilly or Gorakhpur? No, you will generally think of Bangalore and Noida and stuff like that. But if you think, it is only 5 to 7% of the Indian population that are living in the metros. How can we possibly be oblivious to the 95% of the population if you believe that merit is evenly distributed within the population? Who has gone to which kind of colleges, who cracked JEE, who did fantastic in MBBS? There are many other factors. Okay, it is not just the raw intelligence or merit. There are many other factors. But if you believe that merit is evenly distributed, then we are perhaps missing a good 95% of the population from our scanner. So we want to identify fantastic innovators from the tier 2, tier 3 cities of India, from the villages of the country, from the tribal populations of the country. So here, again, with very generous contribution from Rural Electrification Corporation of India, we propose that let us reach out to the government engineering colleges of UP. So we are reaching out to 20 government engineering colleges. We will groom some 1,200 students from this ecosystem and will teach them about the basic tenets of innovation, entrepreneurship, how to look at a problem, how to choose a problem, and so on and so forth. And eventually there will be some grading criteria. And just imagine that even if there is a 2% success rate, then from this 1,200 population, we will get some 24, 25 students who are really good. Then those students will be brought to IIT Kanpur. They will be accommodated here in the campus for 4 to 6 weeks with full access to our infrastructure, workshops and everything, and of course mentoring and all, to see if they can actually work on the ideas that they have developed to make a prototype. If they can make a prototype within that period, of course it will be a rough prototype. We do not expect a product ready for the market. But how they will approach towards making the prototype will tell us a lot about what is the hidden potential within that person. And once we have identified, we will groom and promote them to become entrepreneurs of tomorrow. So this is, you can string them all in a thread, and the objective is one and only one. That is to cast the net wide enough so that we can identify entrepreneurs from places which are conventionally unlikely places.
Professor, do you think that if we can take this on a next low level, okay, suppose if we start the innovation part from class 11th or 12th, okay, just merging the 2 or 3 school students, let them play with the science, okay, let them play with the products, okay. So do you think that the innovation chances will be more than now? Okay, because once I have seen a few years back, there was the Russian students and the Indian students have collaborated and created few of the projects, and Putin and our Modi ji was there and on that expo. So do you think those kind of things should take care in the state basis, in the district basis, so that on the this in the domestic level, so that these students will groom themselves, they will explore the innovations, and they will bring some really good real innovations in India?
Kunal, I think it is a little bit more complex than that. I will give you my rationale, but I will take you through steps. First is that, do you think that all the good students in the country really want to be the engineers or doctors in India?
Not
No.
engineers and doctors, but what I think is
Yeah.
right now they are looking for, suppose if I talk about the UP itself, okay, students prepare for the government jobs. Okay, more of them prepare for the government job. In fact, they prepare themselves for the entrepreneurship.
Yeah.
Okay,
So
so this will
that's what
develop.
I'm trying to get to. That's what I'm trying to get to. That it begins in the school and at home. That India is a country where you do not really have a social security setup. You know, like I have lived in the US for 12 years. There, the guy who repaired my car had a better quality of living standard than me, who was doing a PhD or a postdoc at that time, right? In India, that is certainly not the case. You have a certain standard of living only if you are in a job. And that is what is preached at home and at school from a very early age. We do not have you ever come across any school textbook where some entrepreneurs have been presented as role models or some innovators have been presented as role models? Our role models, I'm not saying that the current role models should not be there. Of course, they should be there. But also we should co-opt good innovators, entrepreneurs as role models. Because without that, the, the students will not even think that this is a career option, number one. Number two is that where a danger is lurking on the horizon is that while it is fantastic that the government has nurtured and expanded the innovation entrepreneurship ecosystem for last 10-12 years, and a whole lot more entrepreneurs are coming in the fray. And I'm sure you are looking at the statistics right now. I think we have some 43,000 startups or something like that. Now imagine, I'll give you a parallel, like Rahul Gupta will be able to relate to it, that right after the success of IT industry, when it was decided that biotech will be the next wave, biotech departments were opened up in every nook and corner of the country. But they had no job opportunities in the country. Today, biotech is a bad word. Okay. So if now today there is massive expansion of number of startups, entrepreneurs, students are really thinking, if it were, 0.001% 10 years back, now it is perhaps 1 to 2% of the students who are thinking. If a large part of them become unsuccessful in what they were trying to do, then that will boomerang in a very bad way. 100%. So what is needed, therefore, is a very comprehensive approach. What you are talking about, government has already taken a step in that direction, and it's a very good step. I do not know the number. I think some 1,000 odd schools now have tinkering labs. And this tinkering labs, because IIT Kanpur, there is a Kendriya Vidyalaya within IIT Kanpur. I have seen that tinkering lab. It is fantastic. Students can come there and play with the infrastructure there and do whatever they feel like. They can let their imagination fly. That is a very important component that has been put in place. I think that some teaching, some, encouragement component has to be there, so that they know that innovation and entrepreneurship is also a very good career option. Then what is needed is that our students, you think about your school days. I can clearly remember my school days. It is all about home to school, back to home, then to your tuition teacher, and back to home.
Definitely.
You have no option of experiencing the society. I think what students should be asked to do, or schools should be mandated, is that let the students lose at least, once a month, and let them discover the society in some form or the other. Let them come to the school and write an essay, which should not be dictated by the parents or the tuition teacher, that Where did they go? What did they see? What are the problems that they identified? Like, let that become a part of the conscious that
Yes.
us Indians, we should be conscious about our society. We should know where the problems lie, and then some of them might be willing to attempt solution, like solving those problems. Then you take the whole ecosystem and some government facilitation at the end of the tunnel to ensure that the good innovations do not die because of reasons beyond the quality of the product. Then you will see the whole ecosystem will move towards that direction.
On the same context, SIIC's last second year, means there was a student of class 9th. Okay,
Mhm.
he has presented an
Yeah,
idea of piezoelectric shoes.
yeah,
Okay, so and he won the third prize. And
yeah,
also a class 10th student presented the idea of e-cycle in the
yeah,
first TED Talk of
yeah,
season 2. So this is what their creativity gets an encouragement through
yeah,
these kinds of events,
yeah,
this kinds of
yeah.
environment. So this environment should be there for them to explore the world. Okay,
Yes,
this is very much important.
yes. Of course, this environment should be there, but I would like to caution you and the enthusiasm of everybody. See, innovation does not come from thin air. Okay, you need to have very solid understanding of subject. Okay, so you should know your physics, your chemistry, your mathematics, your biology, your economics and statistics and everything. Okay, so if students at a very early age get distracted towards product development, you can be rest assured that they will not be able to develop cutting edge product which will be of international quality, because you will need very thorough understanding of the subject. Otherwise, you will, like it is just not possible. Like without knowing the intricacies of biology, you will not be able to come up with a cure for cancer or cure for dementia or Alzheimer's disease. Or if you are not thoroughly, familiar with both physiology and aspects of engineering, you will not be able to come up with the next generation of MRI or CT scan or anything like that. Therefore, importance of education must not be wished away. It is very, very important, and I would not prefer students at a very early age getting distracted. Yes, that ambience should be there, but with certain restraints. That is one major aspect. And the second aspect is that in some rare cases where collectively we feel that yes, it should be promoted, right now there are legal problems. A school student is considered a minor, so the incubator cannot really give money to a minor. Okay, and there are other problems associated with it. So some legal framework has to be created to encourage this kind of innovation.
So don't you think that the new Indian education system, okay, will definitely going to change this pattern?
Let us hope so. Like policy is very good. We will have to all eagerly look forward to its implementation in the letter and spirit. And if that happens, yes, I'm 100% confident that it will be a paradigm shift.
Thank you, Mr. Amitabh Bandyopadhyay ji, for being with us for such a long time. Okay, and for sharing your valuable views with from our viewers, your thoughts and your ideas and your your steps to be taken towards the incubation centers. Okay, that is really helpful to all the startups, and it's a very big step towards the startup ecosystem. Okay,
Thank
I
you.
wish you all the best for this from all
Thank
our
you.
viewers.
Thank you for your time on a Republic Day. I'm sorry, like I have a very busy calendar before and after. So yeah, you're most welcome.
Thank you, sir. Thank you. Thank you very much.
Bye bye.